your cell phones. All right. So I'd like to first start off by thanking everybody who's here this evening. Each and every one of you mean so much to me. So happy that you're able to be here to share in our first Torah class in the Miami Torah Center. So thank you, each and every one of you, for coming. I see each of you, and I know each of you, and each of you have a special and unique connection to me and to this new revolution, as B'ezrat Hashem in the upcoming months and years you will see. So we're going to be holding classes here every day, different topics for different ranges and age groups and different Jewish events. So stay tuned on our website and our WhatsApp groups and all of the above. And the purpose is Torah. The purpose is connecting to God through learning the divine wisdom that He imparted upon us over 3,300 years ago. With that, I don't want to thank every single person, but I would like to, as I said, first thank all of you who are here. Thank my wife, who is a tremendous help for everything. Thank my parents, my in-laws, who aren't here this evening, but my father's uncle is here representing. And thanking all of you in the crowd. You know who you are, who helped make this place possible. Each of you in your own way. Everyone contributed in their own way, their own special way, which really made what you see, which is just a physical shell. It's a nice shell, I have to admit, but it's just a physical one, to the spiritual, special capabilities and powers that we are going to unleash all together and make Florida, which is one of the greatest places to live as a Jew, an even better place for Jews here in South Florida. So thank you everyone for coming. Last but not least, we'd like to thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu for giving us the opportunity to keep on spreading Torah. And it means so much to me that we are able to continue to spread Torah and that all of you are here to be here with us. On the night of Pesach, so I called the class, it's all about the kids, right? And the truth is that's why we do everything. Why do we work so hard? Why do we care so much? Well, people who are immature do it for themselves. And people who are mature, they do it for their family. They do it for their kids. And the Pesach night is the greatest opportunity to capture our children in a good way. I know some of us, when we have teens running around, anything you could do to grab them and capture them. But in a good way to capture them and engage them, bring them close to God, bring them close to our traditions, which now in the world that we live in the high schools that our children go to, may not be so easy. But Pesach is a special time. It's 8 days here outside of Israel, but the first 2 days are so important because we have 2 times that we're able to do the Seder. Some look at it as a burden, but we look at it as a gift. Do you know that a person who is of 30 years of age, that grew up their whole life outside of Israel, had the same amount of Sdarim, Passover Seders, as a 60-year-old that lives in Eretz Yisrael? Think of it that way. So most of us, if not all of us, have already done more than the average Israeli that lives in Israel. We have to look at it as a gift. When we start looking at every situation God puts us in as a gift, as an opportunity, we're happy. Oh, we need to do double. We need to get double the matzah, double the wine, double the food. It's perfect. That's great. As long as we look at it as a positive opportunity to connect to and to grow from. Because if we want to kvetch, if we want to find a way to complain, we will find it. But if we want to just change our attitude to look at the positivity, our kids pick up on that. And that's going to be something we're going to speak about tonight. The greatest way to teach your children is by example. Now, that's the greatest way to teach anything to anybody, right? It's by example. If you go and command your husband, you go and command your wife to do something, they're not going to want to do it. If you command your child to do something, they'll be sure not to do it. But if you suggest, if you do it yourself, That's the way to encourage and to inspire others to want to do whatever you're trying to get them to do. It's a simple psychological technique. And God blessed us to help others to be better by doing that method opposed to commanding. So we have two main obligations, two mitzvot that we have on the night of the Seder. If you have a pen and paper in front of you, if you're able to jot this down, this is very important that you remember. Number one, which is important, but I think the second is more important, is the obligation to eat matzah. So everyone sharpen your teeth, because you're going to have to crunch. Unless you get the Sephardic pita matzah, which I've had before, and it's amazing. It's like a lafa. Okay? But either way, it's heavy on the stomach, it doesn't matter. But that's the first of the two main mitzvot, obligations we have on the night of Pesach. It's eating the matzah. And we're going to do, hopefully during Pesach, those of you who could join us, we're going to do a whole class on why matzah, what is matzah, and all of that. Okay. The second, which is more important, in my view, the Torah doesn't make a differentiation, but it's obvious and we could all agree, is the obligation of V'higadta lebincha, of passing over, of transmitting, which is one of the most key words in Judaism, is transmitting our heritage, our story, our victory, and our exodus from the land of Egypt. That V'higadta lebincha we do by going through the Seder, doing the Seder. Is the point of Pesach to have a lot of neighbors over, a lot of family members? Yeah, that's a nice thing to do. But you know where our focus should be? On our children. On the Pesach Seder, it's important. I'm going to give a suggestion to each and every one of us. Even if you're at a big Seder, big Passover service, or a smaller one, that's fine. However, make sure to seat your child next to you. Even though there might be 10 families that came all together and said, Yalla, let's all, you're making this, you're doing this, you're going to bring this, that's nice, that's fine. But have your children, have your son, have your daughter sit right next to you, because they're the focus on this night. You know, on a Shabbat, if you want to disregard them, shame on us for doing that. But it's not as bad as doing so on Pesach. Pesach's all about the kids. All about the kids. Have it written on your forehead. Have it imprinted on the background of your phone, so you remember till next week, till it is. Remember, it's all about the kids. Now, if we look at a verse that we're going to read, a pasuk that we're going to read on the beginning of Pesach, it's in the beginning of Parashat Bo. Says as follows. I'm going to quote it to you. Ulman tesaper be'ozne bincha uben bincha. So that you should go and say this story of the Exodus over to your children, your grandchildren, your descendants. Meaning never to forget this important event of the Exodus. But you know what? I didn't translate it properly. Any of you who speak Hebrew understand that I missed a word. I said ulman tesaper be'ozne. What does ozen mean? An ear. Why ear? Yehuda, are you able to hear through your hand? Why not? Can you hear through your nose? Can you hear through your mouth? You can't. There's only one place that we can hear from. It's our ears. Why did Hashem say, tell to the ears of your children and your grandchildren this story? Where else are we going to say it to? Good question? It's not my question. It's the Arizal's question. We all have heard of the Arizal, the greatest mystical master of 1500s, 16th century. He answers as follows, and this is the point we've said from the beginning. When you speak to your children, when you inspire your children, when you speak to anybody, when you want to teach something to someone, share something with someone, speak to them on their level. Speak to them on something that they understand. Speak to them on something that's practical to their life. Because then you're going to hit it home to them. Then it's going to mean something to them. If you're going to speak about in a mundane term, if you're going to speak to a carpenter, which by the way I want to pause. Does everyone see the beautiful Aron Kodesh and the beautiful Bima over here? Put your hands together for our dear Jaime from. Raise your hand. God bless you and thank you. You did an amazing job. Kol hakavod. Really, really. If anyone needs any cabinetry, I could only suggest him. And for the thousands watching online, yes, call him and he'll make sure he takes care of you as well. Kol hakavod, really. But if I speak to a carpenter about cosmic realms and the solar system, is he going to go in? No, not because he can't understand. It's just it's not in his headspace. He doesn't care about that. If I speak to a real estate tycoon about anything, they'll understand. I'm joking. Because by the way, owning real estate makes a dumb person look smart. But that's off topic completely, so let's move on. But if you speak to somebody about something that doesn't pertain to their life, they're going to just turn off. Like if right now I'd go off tangent and speak about something intricate on a page in the Talmud, in the middle of a book, everyone's just going to turn off and you're going to see everyone's eyes glaze. And it's at no one's fault. It's a fact of life. So the Torah is telling us, when you're going to share this story with your children and with your grandchildren, make sure you make it applicable to their lives. Make sure they understand you. Don't speak to your 15-year-old like a 2-year-old, and don't speak to your 2-year-old like a 22-year-old. Every child needs your attention at what their attention span is and the depth of their understanding is. It's very important. And as we get older, guess what? Our children get older. So we need to upgrade. You can't pull the same thing every year on your children. But we need to be in tune to this. It is so important. Make sure to speak to the ears of your children, the Arizal says. The Seder Night is full of questions and answers. Why this and why that? We do so many weird things. Sometimes cover the Seder plate, lift the cup, put down the cup. What is all of this? Is it like a circus? We're doing all these things to gain the attention of our children. We're doing things out of the norm. We're leaning on the side. Abba, Ima, why are we leaning on the side? Why are we dipping? Why are we doing this? Why are we eating matzah? All to change the regular scene in order to attract. The Kuzari, Rabbi Yehuda Levi writes, you know how to gain the attention of somebody? Besides for speaking about something to their ears, as now we all understand, is ask them a question. If I'm going to tell you the wall is white, you know how I'll get your attention better? What color is the wall, Yehuda? Very good. Now I have your attention. When you ask a question, the same things with children. If you ask them a question, you have them. They're intrigued. They're now connected. And that is the point. That is our main focal point on Passover to do. It's something that we shouldn't let up on. It's something which, it's a beautiful thing to do, depending on the age of the children. But the younger ones, this works very well. Sometimes the older ones too, is every question, not even answer, every question, and all the more so an answer given about the Haggadah, about whatever we're reading, boom, you get a candy. Something sweet, something nice. The kids are older, so you need to, write them a check. Well, you can't do that on the Chag, but I owe you. But get your kids involved. Make them want to ask questions. Make them want to answer questions. It's only a couple hours, and we're lucky it's twice a year. Spend the time and care for your children, because this is our obligation on the night of Passover. It's all about the children. I want to share a true story. I have a couple stories tonight, so get ready. These are each one, and the reason why I'm going to say so many stories is because the holiday of Passover is the holiday of our story. It's our story as a Jewish nation. It's what made us a Jewish nation. It was the birthright of our people. Each and every one of us. We all stem back to being slaves in bondage and being tortured in Egypt. and being freed. So that story is our story. So you know the best way to teach a story is with another story. And that's why if you look at a lot of books on the Haggadah and on Passover, it's got full of stories, full of anecdotes, parables, because this is the holiday of our story. Pesach literally means to pass over. But you know what else Pesach means? Your mouth, sach, talks. Passover is the holiday of talking. I'm sure all the women will do very well at that. So listen to this story. This story happened to the Silver family. Their last name was Silver. And they had a 6-year-old boy named Gabriel. So the father starts Kiddush. He's going for it. We know it's a little longer than normal. And all of a sudden, Gabriel, right after the father says the bracha of Shehecheyanu, before he's about to drink, the child, 6-year-old, says, Abba, are we up to the part of the Seder that says Vanitzak, which is translated as, and the Jewish people yelled and they scrammed. The father quickly took a gulp, because you're not supposed to speak before you drink, after you make the bracha. And the father says, no, not yet. Don't worry. It's in the middle of the Haggadah. It's in the middle of Magid. 5 minutes later, Gabriel pipes up, Abba, are we up to Vanitzak? The father said, shh. I guess he didn't hear this. It's all about the kids. Shh. We'll get there. Then he hears the father announce that they're starting Magid. And he remembers the father said it's in the middle of Magid. So he said, Abba, are we up to Vanitzak? The time of our screaming. The father said, no, not yet. We're getting there. But tell me, what are you so... when a 6-year-old is adamant about something, you ask why. He tells him, I have to share a story that my Rebbe in school shared with me. And I'm waiting for this moment. 6-year-old, this child. It's a true story. Stories as follows. Years ago, there was a poor Jew. His name was Moishele, from the Sephardic side of the world. No. Moishele was unfortunate. He was a needy individual. He was literally going week to week, month to month, and he owed rent to his landlord, to a goy, a Gentile, and he had no mercy. One winter was a slow winter and business wasn't good for Moishele. And when his landlord came and asked him for rent, he said, I don't have what to give you. So the Gentile tells him, you have 2 weeks to pay me your rent, or I'm going to put you in jail. And he was able to. That was the law, the land of the law of the land. He didn't know what to do. What does a Jew do when they don't know what to do? Do one of two things. Turn to God or turn to your rabbi. So he did both, but he first went to his rabbi. And he asked advice from the rabbi, what to do? So you know what the rabbi told him? He told him, turn to God. He told him, pray. He told him, Hashem will send you a miracle. He sees how much you care about Torah and mitzvot and your family. He won't let you be evicted and thrown into the streets. Not in the middle of the winter. Come on. And this was a couple days before Passover. So the rabbi tells him, on the Seder Night, by the point of where we say Vanitzak, I want you to get, that you will scream, I want you to get all of your children and your wife and yourself to all scream and cry to Hashem in prayer, asking Him to save you from this hardship that you're going with. Right now, at that night, at that moment. He said, I have nothing to lose, of course. The Rebbe says, he does. You know what happens? They come. They're all waiting for the moment. The father tells the whole family. They get to the moment, and the whole family is screaming and crying by Vanitzak. Just like the Jewish people yelled out and screamed to God, and that's what got them out of Egypt. They're reenacting that at that moment. And in the middle of their scream, they hear a knock on the door. Sounds too good to be true, right? But there's another Gentile who was escaping town. He says, I have 300 gold coins over here, and I have to leave. I'm going to deposit it by you. You could keep half, and I'm coming back for half in a week. He had nothing to say. It was muktzeh. He couldn't even take it on the holiday. The guy dropped it in the door, closed the door. 300 gold coins? No? Is that not good? Well, it gets better. You know how much his rent was for the month? 150 gold coins, exactly half of what he was going to be left. So this was the story that the Rebbe told the child, the 6-year-old child, Gabriel. So Gabriel now is saying, unfortunately, his mother was just diagnosed with a serious illness days before Passover. And it was something very hard on the whole family. And the mother, she got dressed in holiday clothes and she came to the Seder. But everyone was sad. So he said, I want everybody to pray when we get to that word for what we all want. It's for the health of our mother. Pray that she be healthy, happy, live a long life. Scream out to Hashem, Hashem, I need my mommy. 6-year-old boy. And lo and behold, at the moment that the whole Seder table at Gabriel's family, the silver family, gets to Vanitzak, they all screaming and crying and praying. And a couple of weeks after, when she had her doctor's checkup, she started feeling better and eventually recovering. All from the 6-year-old child listening to the story from his rabbi. But where did that child get it from? Yes, our children will be inspired at school by the great teachers. But the school will not form your children. You know who will form your children? You. That child must have seen his father and his mother pray and care and do good deeds. That's where he found it from. Or else a little story like that wouldn't hit home so much. It only hit home by him. Why not others? Because as parents, we have the responsibility. God gave us this gift. It's each of our children to raise and put them in the right track for spiritual as well as physical, but most importantly, spiritual success. It is what our purpose in life is to do. The Ben Ish Chai, I'm sure we've all heard of the Ben Ish Chai, Rabbi Yosef Chaim of Baghdad, he writes that the mouth of a human being is something very powerful. Especially speaking about during these weeks of when we speak about slander and Lashon Hara, we know how powerful the nuclear weapon of our tongue is. It could destroy and it can build. A good word can make the world for everybody. A negative word can destroy the world for a certain individual. Our tongue. But the Ben Ish Chai writes that the tongue, the mouth of a Jewish person is an even stronger weapon. It is so powerful. Why? Because when we call out to God, He listens. Every single time. Like a parent sometimes answers yes, sometimes answers no. But He listens every time. But He writes something else. That's all pretty obvious. But listen to something else He writes. He writes that like a soldier, if the tongue's a weapon, if the mouth is a weapon, can a soldier just come out to war with his weapons? Yes, no. There's something missing. There's training, but there's also making sure that the weapons are cleaned. If a person goes to war with a samurai sword and comes back from war, I hate to say it this way, but with blood on their sword, which is a good sign when you're at war. You know what happens when you put that bloody sword back in the sheath? It's going to get stuck eventually. And then that weapon will not serve you properly. A person that has a rifle or a gun, if you don't tend to your gun, if you don't clean it, if you don't put maintenance on it, it won't work properly. According to that, the Ben Ish Chai writes that our mouths are the same. They're a weapon, but they need to be clean. How do you keep your mouth clean? It's not speaking derogatory about someone else. It's not speaking lashon hara. It's not speaking slander. It's not using foul language, curse words. If you want your mouth to work, if you want your mouth to penetrate right to Hashem, keep it clean. It's a weapon. It's like any other weapon, he writes. That's something we should all remember. And bringing it back to our children. If our children see that we make an effort to keep our mouths clean, to not speak negative about others, to not speak about others, to not use foul language, derogatory words, curse words, well, then our children will understand that is the right thing to do. How could you give your child a face when they use a 4-letter word if you use it? It's all about creating an environment around you, knowing that there's no tolerance for lashon hara. There's no tolerance for derogatory statements, for bad words. And that is keeping our weapon, our mouth, nice and clean. Rabbi Pincus writes that there is 10 forms of prayer. If we look in our scripture, there are 10 different words which relate to prayer. There's singing, there's speaking, there's praying, there's so many, there's 10 of them. But he said there's one which is the strongest. The strongest is tzedakah, screaming out to God. You know why? Because when you scream out to God, you have no words to use. You used your words. You sang to God. You requested. You praised. You did everything. But now you get to a level of what I need from God cannot be put into words. So you know what it's put into? It's put into a cry. It's put into a scream. It's put into a yell. You know when someone goes, that means so much more than saying anything else. Because that sigh, that scream, can mean 1,000 words. But it means so much more to God. Because then you're connecting to Him more spiritually than verbally or physically, he writes. He says, the Zohar tells us, if you scream to God when you're in need, Hashem cannot refuse you. And He cannot refuse you at all, meaning He has to answer you right away. This is only by screaming. This is what the Jewish people did. They were screaming. They were downtrodden. They were tortured. So you know what they did? They screamed out to God, and God answered them. In our lives, that's the way that we are able to find inspiration, find hope and salvation in Hashem in order to push through those hard times that Hashem sends us. The Chafetz Chaim wrote, besides for screaming, if we look at the verse of when the Jewish people scram out to God, you know how the verse reads? The verse reads, Vanitzak el Hashem Elokei Avotenu, that the Jewish people scram out to the God, our God, the God of our forefathers. Vaishma Hashem el kolenu, and Hashem heard their voice. Sorry, Vaishma Hashem el tefi el kolenu. You're right, el kolenu. Let me translate that. You scream out to God, and Hashem hears your voice. But one second, what was the scream? Wasn't the scream a prayer? It should say Hashem heard our tefillah, our prayer. Answers the Chafetz Chaim that the power of using our voice when we pray means so much. That's why when you walk into some synagogues, it's very loud. Why is it loud? Because everyone's praying out loud, except by the silent Amidah, the silent prayer. The silent prayer is when we are to be completely silent. And he says one more thing, and this is something we can teach our children, is to pray to God, to request something from God after doing a mitzvah, after fulfilling a good deed, such as Birkat HaMazon. Birkat HaMazon, blessing God, thanking God for the food that we eat after we eat it, is a Torah obligation. You know what we do after Birkat HaMazon? We have 15 harachamans. We ask for everything. Those 15 supplications and requests are basically anything anyone could ask for. Health, happiness, peace, livelihood, strength, health. Everything we want is there. Why do we ask it there? Because right after you fulfilled the mitzvah, the obligation of blessing God and thanking Him, you're now in mitzvah mode. Ask Hashem. Right then and there. Teach our children to speak to God. To us, sometimes it's a phenomenon we're not so used to. Our grandmothers, great-grandmothers, every second word was Hashem. Oh, I burnt the schena. Hashem, help me with this. Oh, I broke something. I made something. I succeeded with something. Hashem did this. Hashem did that. Hashem burnt the schena. Hashem did it. Everything's Hashem. You blame Hashem. You thank Hashem. Everything's Hashem. That's good, because you're connected. When you're connected to Hashem, He's connected to you. When we teach our children this, we're lucky. We saw this by our grandparents, our great-grandparents. Do our children see it from us? Do our grandchildren see it from us? That makes all the difference. It's all about the kids. And we have this opportunity on Passover. We have this opportunity every moment we are with our children to try to engage them, inspire them, and let them understand who we are and what our story is. Our story is we were a small family who discovered God, who were exiled, tortured, redeemed, and were given the greatest gift mankind ever had. And that is the Torah. That is the divine wisdom. In a nutshell, that's our story. We can go before, we can go after. But when we teach this to our children, and then we teach them that every Jew we see is your brother, is your sister. You know why? Because we all come from that little family. We all come from the 12 tribes. Each and every one of us. So treat them like your brother. Treat them like your sister. In the Haggadah, one of the funnest times, I know for our family, everyone has their own fun times. One of the funnest times is when we sing Dayenu. And they all have their own tunes, but it's a fun time. If anyone stops to listen, to read, and understand the Dayenu, they all make sense. Each and every one. There's one, we're not going to go through all of them now. There's one which makes absolutely no sense. And listen to this. Ilu keravnu lifnei har Sinai. If God would have brought us in front of Mount Sinai, velo natan lanu et Torah, and He wouldn't have given us the Torah, Dayenu, it would have been enough. If God would have brought us to Mount Sinai and not given us the Torah, that would have been great. Hello? Okay, I understand. If God would have brought us into the land of Israel, not given us the temple, that would have been enough. Makes sense. At least you're in the land of Israel. If God would have taken us out of Egypt and not helped us all the way through, at least there's a benefit. What's the benefit of God bringing us to Mount Sinai and not giving us the Torah? Listen to a fascinating answer. This answer is about to change your life. With this answer and the following story. The answer is, you know what Mount Sinai did to the Jewish people? Mount Sinai, as our commentaries, as Rashi tells us, is that the Jewish people stood opposite the mountain. For those who understand Hebrew, the verse should have written, Vayachanu b'nei Israel neged ahar. That the Jewish people in plural encamped and stood opposite the mountain. Now you know what the Torah says, Yosef? Vayihan b'nei Israel. In singular. The Jewish people in singular stood opposite the mountain. What does Rashi say? Very famous commentary. Amdu ish echad kelev echad. They all stood as one person, one heart, one soul. 3 million people stood as one. Nowadays you can't get 2 Jews to agree on something. 3 million Jews! 2 Jews, 3 opinions? This is what was given at Har Sinai. It's Achdut, which is unity, and Ahavat Yisrael, the love of another Jew. If the Jewish people would have been brought to Mount Sinai and they were given only the gift of unity and not the Torah, which includes and encompasses everything, Dayenu, that would have been enough. This year, when you read that, share that with the people at your Seder. Share them the importance of unity. Share with your children the importance of unity. We all know this famous story of a father who was on their deathbed, and he had 5 children. He told each of his children to bring a stick. Bring 2 sticks, actually. And he had them all line up. And they each, at his command, break 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now take the whole stick, put them all together. And he went from the strongest to the weakest, the oldest to the youngest, and none of them were able to break it. Because that's unity. That's 5 individual fingers or 5 fingers as a unit. We, as the Jewish people, are one unit. We're united. Some are Sephardic, some are Ashkenaz. Some are more observant, more committed, or less committed. It doesn't matter. You know, you got one stocky finger, you got one tall one that people shouldn't be using for whatever we use it for. You got your pinky, which breaks easy. You got your pointing finger, which is the coolest finger of all. And you got the wedding ring finger, which some are happy with, some not. But it takes all 5 fingers to make a hand, to make a fist. If I had 5 thumbs, I wouldn't be happy. If I had 5 index fingers, I wouldn't be happy. I wouldn't be happy with any of the same. That's what makes the Miami Torah Center different. This is a unified Torah center. All types of Jews are welcome to learn here, because that's how all Torah should be taught. All Torah is and should be available to everyone, whether you read and understand Hebrew or whether you don't, whether you keep Shabbat or eat kosher or not. It doesn't matter. The Torah is our gift. The Torah is part of our story. We all have the right to not be robbed from authentic Torah, from Torah which inspires us, from Torah which is able to change our lives for the better. And that's unity. That's how the Jewish people stood at Mount Sinai. You think they were all the same? They certainly weren't. They each had their own rationales, their own ideas, but no. They stood as one nation, one heart, one soul. It's hard to do that nowadays. But we need to try. And our efforts here in this Torah Center is an effort in that direction. And it's an effort which we hope can spread over to not only the community here in Sunny Isles, but all over South Florida and all over the world. Giving an opportunity for people to come and to learn. If you don't know how to read and write and understand Hebrew, well, we're going to offer that for you. And if your children don't, we'll offer for that for them as well. And if you know how to read and write Hebrew, how about this? You know how to read and understand Aramaic, the language of the Talmud. Well, we're going to give you an opportunity to pursue that as well. And that is our mission over here. It's to disseminate Torah, to pass on, literally pass over, our gift, the gift that God gave us, which made us a nation. I want to share, I know it's late, but we didn't start 60 minutes ago, so I'm going to share one more story, and this is the best story I've ever heard in my life. Okay? Wow. This is going to be the story which I hope each of us will remember. And again, the holiday of Passover is the holiday of our story. So listen to this. This story happened a couple decades ago. And this is when they finally figured out in the medical world how to take a kidney from one individual and give it to another. God did something very amazing when He created the human being. He created the human being with 2 eyes. But you know, we need both eyes. God forbid, a person that does not have one eye cannot see the full amount. He created us with doubles of many body parts in our body. But there's one thing he created that we have a double of, and we don't have a need for it. And that's the kidney. So they came out a couple decades ago with the method to transplant a kidney from Mr. or Mrs. A and give them onto a match of Mr. or Mrs. B. So there was a child, a teenager, the kid was not a teacher, he was older. He was in his 20s. This is a true story. And he was diagnosed with kidney cancer. He was on dialysis in whatever way they did it back then, and his kidneys were failing. So what happens in such a situation? You seek a match. You seek a donor. After months of looking, and you can imagine the poor parents, how frustrated and helpless they are, they finally find a match, and both of them live in New York. So it's not so far. Okay? So the father of the patient, of the alleged recipient, calls the person who was tested and was willing to give their kidney up for someone else, which, by the way, is one of the greatest mitzvot, good deeds a person can do. Do you know that if you give your kidney to someone else, do you know what that feels like? Every single time that other person breathes, lives, are spending quality time with their family, it's all because of you. Must be the most rewarding feeling in this world. So this donor is getting the phone call from the parent of the recipient saying, "You're the match. Can we schedule a date?" And the guy on the phone's like, "Sure, no problem. Just tell me when it is and I'll be there." "Oh no, you can't do it so quick. You got to get checked out by the doctors that you're healthy so it doesn't endanger your life." "I'll go do it." The guy did it. Everything was successful. Perfect health. The guy's like a soldier. So they set a date in a couple weeks from now to do the surgery. 3 days before the surgery, the donor calls the father of the recipient and tells him, "I can't do it, I'm sorry." "How not? We had our hopes up. You were giving life back to our son." "I can't, I really would want to. My father doesn't let me." Your father doesn't let you? But the doctors promise it's a 99.9% chance that nothing is going to harm you or damage you. "My father doesn't let." "Can I speak to your father?" "Sure. Here's his phone number." He gives him his phone number. And the father of the recipient calls the father of the donor. Picks up the phone and he says, "Hi, sir. My name is so-and-so. I know that your son was scheduled to give to my son." Boom. The phone gets shut. The father of the recipient says, "Okay, maybe there was a misconnection." He calls him back. He says, "Hi, my name is so-and-so. I know." Boom. Gets shut on again. Calls a third time and the guy doesn't even answer. So the father calls the child, the donor, and says, "What's with your dad? I don't understand." So he tells him, "Listen, I don't know what his reason is, but he was adamant about it, that he's not letting me give my kidney to your son. And I don't know why. Can I go see your father?" He says, "Sure, here's his address." The guy goes, he knocks on his door. Now, we should never be in such a situation, but just imagine, what would you do to give your own child life? Anything. You would do anything. So he went across town to see this man. He knocks on the door. The guy opens, he peeks. He sees him, closes the door on him. 5 minutes later, the guy knocks again. He opens the door, slams the door on him again. 20 minutes later, and this was before cameras, before the bells, all that stuff. 20 minutes later, he knocks and the guy opens again, but this time, the father of Cyprian shoved his foot in. And he says, hey, I'm not going to try to change your mind on what you want to do with your son. You have full right. But at least tell me why you're not letting your son give his kidney to my son. My son's dying. Your son can give him life. So the man on the other side of the door looks at him and he tells him, do you think I'm a fool? Are you taking me for an idiot? I know you. I've seen your face before. You have a lot of blood on your hands. Mind you, these two men are Jewish. He says, I'm never going to let my son give life to your son. The man didn't know what to do. He tells him, I remember you. We were back in Auschwitz together. And you were a capo. Has anyone heard of what a capo is? It was the most horrible phenomenon of the whole Holocaust. You know what the Germans did, Yamach Shemam? They had Jews doing the dirty work for them. They had Jews executing Jews. Why would they do that? Well, we can never judge them because God knows what we would do in that situation. But they said, listen, if I do as I'm told, at least I'll live. By the way, most of the time, they were called capos, these guys. They were executed as well. And the man looks at him and says, you're a capo. And I remember some 10 years ago that my son and I were working in a certain SS officer's house. My son was 14 years old. And for some odd reason, even though he was strong and bold and muscular, he went out of the line. He got out of line. He wasn't put together with the rest of the strong, healthy other individuals who were brought to the gas chambers. We were working together in this house. And one day the SS officer comes into his home. He sees this 14-year-old and he says, hey, what are you doing here? You should be out by the block. He looks to the capo, to this man. He tells him, take him to the block such and such number, which was known to be the one that brings you to the gas chambers. And the father's telling the other man, I remember that day you sold your soul to the devil. You took my son, my 14-year-old son, and you executed him. How can you ask for my son, my other son, to give life to your son? You're a murderer. Since when do you care about life? And he's about to slam the door and break the guy's leg when he slams it. The man on the other side pleads. And he says, wait. Let me tell you the end of that story. The end of that story was that there was an attic in that house that we worked in. And I saw your son's face just a year after bar mitzvah. He's 14 years old. And I could not bring him to a gas chamber My Jewish heart came out and I couldn't do it. So I walked outside with him and I went up around the back and I put him in the attic. And for years I was feeding to him, tending to him, taking care of him. When the Russians came and liberated Auschwitz, I couldn't find you, the man pleads. And I had to leave. I went to America with the rest of the Jews. I took this kid as my own son. Do you know which kid needs a transplant, needs a kidney? It's the brother of this other kid, your other son, your younger son. This story is one of the most emotional stories. I'm holding myself back from crying. The first couple times I heard it, I cried every single time. I still have chills down my back saying it. So it's a nice story. But you know what that story means to us? What? Obviously he gave him the kidney. It's his son. It's obvious he gave him the kidney. It's his son. But how come when you know it's your son, you'll do something for him? And when you think it's not your son, or when you think, I'm not your brother, I'm not your sister, or we don't have the same last name, you have dark skin and he has light skin, you grew up in this part of the world and they grew up in that part of the world. My friends, my brothers and sisters, we all come from the 12 tribes. We're all brothers and sisters. And you know what? Brothers and sisters don't always get along. But you get through it. We need to teach our kids to get through it. When you teach your kids to pull through, when you teach them that unity is number one, they will make that number one. If you lead by example, if you're on good terms with your siblings, then you can expect that from your children. If you're not, never expect that from your children. Because we teach by leading by example. That way and that way only. Let's stop in our lives and think, what if that person that needs my help is really my brother, really my sister? Would I go out of the way for them? Well, you would. What if they're really your son or really your daughter? Would you give them your kidney? Of course you would. When we start activating in our minds that as Jews we're all brothers and all sisters, no matter what you do, no matter how you look, no matter where you live or where you grew up in, we're all one unit. And when we decide and commit ourselves to be one unit, then life changes. Because now God sees you care about everybody, so He's going to start caring more about you. As I said, this Torah Center is for everybody. I welcome each of you to come. In the upcoming weeks right after Passover, you're all going to receive our schedule. And I don't expect all of you here once a day or once a week, maybe once a month. Whatever it is, I want to see you here. I want to share with you. We'll have more personal classes, larger classes, but everyone is welcome. Please take a get to know you card if I don't know you yet, or if I don't have your contact information yet, which I have most of you. Fill it out, leave it with me. Take a pushka, take a flyer, take a business card, take some food. And one last announcement. We would like to thank the sponsor of this evening's event, the first class that we have here at the Torah Center, which is by Mr. and Mrs. Jimmy and Sylvia Seda. Thank you very much. Thank you for being here. And this is Leilu Nishmat, Jimmy's father, Mr. Abe Seda, who was a man of community, a man who promoted unity, a man who unfortunately I never met, but I met Jimmy at his Shiva when he was sitting for his father. And since then, him and I have become very close friends, very, very close. And may God bless the Seda family with a lot of health, blessings, success, beautiful children, and B'ezrat Hashem to us all in the merit of his father, Mr. Abe Seda. Thank you everyone for coming. Please serve yourselves. Thank you.